Hello and welcome to Joe's vision of a sustainable community. In saying sustainable community, I don't mean the literal sense of a town, an area, a nation state, nothing like that. Community to me is a group of people that have the same goals, have the same ideas, and I think a community for me is something that is almost a safe haven for ideas, for opinions, for growth. And that is what I'm going to be centering my sustainable vision off of. So here in some of the images I've provided, these are all moments I've captured as an angler. I'm a very avid fisherman, and as a fisherman, I belong to a community of people who, are like-minded. It could be a different type of community. It could be, a skiing community, a dog walking community. It could be a variety of things. The common variable is that there is a group of people that find recreation from the same thing, find passion from the same thing. And I think that's a very valuable tool. And my idea of a community is centered around just that. People who are like-minded going towards common goals. Of course, with any source of recreation that is derived from the natural world or the environment, many rules and regulations come about that need to be followed and respected. In my vision for a sustainable community, those rules and regulations are not solely derived from governmental agencies or things of that matter, but more so focused on from the community, from the people. In my vision for the redistribution of power in the angling community, I think it's duly noted that putting power back into the hands of the quote-unquote people is a dangerous game to play. We've seen in course material the negatives of neoliberalism on the environment in the course of the 21st century, but I want to make it clear that it's not that what I'm asking for. I think in looking at a community, you have to understand that these people care deeply for what they are focused on. In the angling community, these people care deeply for the fish, the waters, the ecosystems, and I think that is what the main focus of my community needs to be. Not on purely power, but growth. My first and most important suggestion for a sustainable community in angling is inquiry. By inquiry, I mean that the people in charge, the government, the fisheries and oceans, the regulation makers need to look to this angling community and say, okay, how do you think we can improve? You've been on the water, you've done your due, you've done your, in a sense, research. Where do you think this can be improved? Should we heighten security here? Should we reduce it here? The transfer of information is what is really important here. I think between the two parties, between the government agencies, between the anglers, a flow of information needs to be present for this idea of a sustainable community to be reached. In the introduction of Envisioning a Sustainable World by Donella H. Meadows, the introduction states that different types of knowledge, talent, skill, and work are needed to create such a vision. I think this is really where these two parties can combine and create true change. Again, stated in the paper by Meadows is the problem of implementation. And obviously policy is something that is very, very important in managing the natural world. As we've learned in class, policy is not an extension of just free will and want. It is a very long and drawn-out process that I'm sure we'll learn more about throughout the semester. But I think the baseline of a relationship between the community and policymakers is what will ultimately be the catalyst for change. A great example I could use of how this community of sustainable anglers would be implemented is perhaps you're on a river and there are fish there that are vulnerable. Perhaps they're spawning and there's no regulation to say that you cannot fish them. If these fish are vulnerable, there's an obstruction in the river, there's something that is not clean cut, not on paper. As a community of anglers, individuals could go to the higher powers, to the policymakers, suggest something, recommend something, put their thoughts forward as a member of the sustainable community. In many ways, my suggestion and example may seem a little bit elementary, a little bit not as far-fetched as maybe it should be. But again, it is my vision. And as an angler, I know the risks to these fisheries. I know how they could be improved by a community. And that's what's important. Logistically, looking at how the feasibleness of quick and accurate information could be widespread, I think just looking at the tools we have with technology in the 21st century, different types of social media, different forms, cell phones, email, things like that could really be beneficial to the angling community and policymakers. And I think this relay of information would be easily completed with the tools we have at our disposal. Lastly, another great point made by Meadows in her paper is that only a shared vision can be responsible. Again, the sense of community that I've reiterated so many times in this creative project of mine is that community is number one. It's shared, it's accurate, it's progressive. When one party lacks, another pushes forward. I think that is the most important thing in having my vision come to fruition.